So hello students, we are starting with unit 6 concurrency control schemes. So in the last unit we have seen what are the problems that can arise due to, what are the conflicts that can arise due to concurrent execution of transaction. We have seen some method to detect whether particular set of transactions may create problem or not. But but in reality the DBMS has to control that situation. It cannot detect and say that there is a problem. It has to ensure that those problems should not occur. तो हम ये कह सकते हैं कि प्रॉब्लम होनी ही नहीं चाहिए, किसी भी तरह की RWWR या RWW कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स होने ही नहीं चाहिए. तो डेटाबेस कैसे इंश्योर करता है, किस प्रोटोकॉल्स को यूज़ करता है कि कॉन्करेंट एग्जीक्यूशन में सारी चीज़ें सही से मैनेज हों, करेक्ट एग्जीक्यूशन हो. Database has to ensure for the serializability and recoverability both. So for these purpose there are many methods used by DBMS. So main method, the first method which is normally used by most of DBMSs is locking protocols. Database uses locking protocols for the purpose of achieving serializability and recoverability and to ensure that the schedules are correct, concurrent execution is correct. So the very first protocol we will study locking protocol, then we will go on timestamp based protocols and so on. So locking protocol use one important thing is a lock. So it is like a variable. In software, lock is like a variable which is used to identify the status of a data item. So a data item, if it is already, so any particular user, any particular transaction has to request for the lock for the data item for which he or she wants to access the value. Fine. And but if that item is already locked, then he cannot use that item, he has to wait. So the first thing, the responsibility of the transaction is to request the lock before usage of data item. And the other important responsibility is to release the log, because if it does not release the log, this log cannot be given to any other transaction, and that will create the problem for, that will affect the efficiency of concurrent transactions. So we can see this with this diagram. So there is a concurrency control component which I already told you as part of DBMS architecture. So this is a transaction. The first step is transaction request the concurrency control component for the lock. The concurrency component check the lock compatible table. Soon we will see what is lock compatible matrix or table. If the lock is available, then the request will be granted. If the lock is already given to some other transaction, it is already with some other transaction, then the request will be denied. So there are two type of locks. The first lock is shared mode lock and the second lock is exclusive mode lock. So why two type of locks? So there are two main operations, read and write. So if any transaction only performs read operations on a particular data item, then the transaction must ask for shared mode lock. Shared mode lock means if the transaction shared mode locks allow to share the lock. Exclusive mode lock, whenever a transaction has to write particular data item along with reading, then the compatible lock is lock exclusive lock. We denote it with lock X. We denote the shared mode transaction with lock S. or simply we write S and X. So this is the compatibility matrix. So we can see SX, SX. So shared mode lock is compatible with shared mode lock. Other locks are not, in other way the locks are not compatible. So what is this compatibility means? So the compatibility means on request for a lock for data item q, it is granted only when the same data item is not locked by another data transaction in incompatible mode. So the shared mode lock already given to a sub data item by some transaction ti, then TJ request that particular lock again in shared mode, then it is permitted, otherwise not, because reading multiple readings will not create problem. The problem is when there is at least one write. That's why we have shown the problems RW, WR and WW. So you have seen at least one write is there. RR is never created. RR will never create a problem. So this is what is compatibility matrix. So the very first protocol is binary locking that I will tell later on.